Well, good morning. I'm Tim Ingold, and I'm speaking here from my home in Aberdeen in the northeast of Scotland. Uh, I'm now retired. I retired in 2018, but for many years I was teaching first in the University of Manchester and then since 1999 in the University of Aberdeen. And one of the courses I taught to final year students in Aberdeen was a course called the 4As, which is short for Anthropology, Archaeology, Art and Architecture. And one of the things I did in that course was to replace standard tutorials in which students would discuss inside a classroom with things we did outdoors of various kinds. And this was very important to the way of learning of the course. And that's what I want to talk about for a few minutes now. What I'm presenting is basically a manifesto for an outdoor anthropology, because I think we spend too long indoors, especially when studying in the classroom or in libraries or in those little rooms at home when we shut ourselves away, often in semi-darkness with nothing else to look at but a screen. And obviously there are practical reasons for that. We can't keep our books out of doors or they get wet, for example. But it does, I think, influence the way we think, and we need to acknowledge those influences. Because a lot of anthropological theorizing on broad themes like landscape, materiality, agency, embodiment, meaning, it might make perfectly good sense when discussed in class or read on the page, but it quickly falls apart when confronted with the immediacy of outdoor experience, on the ground, under the sky, walking along, breathing the air, in the midst of the weather. And yet, surely, anthropology is a field-based study which is dedicated to understanding life in its real-world settings. So I think it's really important that students learn to think outdoors, and I mean think, through intense observational engagements with the world around them, and to bring this thinking into a resourceful critique of what they read. So that the thinking you do out of doors, it's not just data collection, it's actually trying to think through issues about landscape, weather, in what we mean by environment, and so on. After all, why should we train students in their writing only to reference academic texts, but not what they have gleaned from their observations in the world? Why are student essays full of things in brackets saying Smith 1984 or Jones 2002, but not this cloud and what I learned from watching it, or this tree from what I learned from looking at it closely? Why can't we learn from the world around us as well as from texts? And I think the answer points to a fundamental schism that remains at the heart of academic anthropology. Because academic anthropology continues to represent the outdoors, the outdoor world, as a place you go in order to collect your data, but not as a place you go in order to think or to theorize. And that, I think, is why it has such an attenuated view of observation as simply data collection. You go out there, collect your data, but then you bring it indoors in order to analyze it and theorize about it. I want to advocate a much more rich, more literal view of observation as attending to the world, watching, listening, and corresponding with it. And I think that in environmental anthropology, what we should be doing is teaching students how to be good observers in that broad sense. And that's what I tried to do in this course that I was doing with the students. It's described in a book that I wrote subsequently called Making, Anthropology, Archaeology, Art and Architecture, was published in 2013. And the first chapter of that book, which is called Knowing from the Inside, gives an idea of how we went about things in the course. And throughout the book, there are more specific examples of what we did. But I'll stop there. Thank you very much.